What's going on? Welcome to the live deep dive. My man Ian Boyd is joining us. I'm Paul Wadlington. Let's talk some football, and let's specifically talk about some of the answers to your questions that you guys submitted on Inside Texas. Speaking of Inside Texas, Ian, join right now for $1 American, new members only. This is where the elite go to talk about sports. All right, Ian, what's going on, buddy?
Ready to see what kind of questions we got that we didn't already get to. I think
That's
we have
true.
a few interesting ones and a few expansive ones.
I ask you what's going on every week, and every week you act like I'm asking you the capital of Burkina Faso.
Yeah, because the first thing I think about is something that would get us on a 30-minute tangent.
It's
And
true. And then you suppress it.
I promised people I would only talk about my Cormac and McCarthy interpretations if we ran out of questions.
We're going to talk about Cormac McCarthy and your flag football team at the end of this Q&A because that's what the people really want. That's what I want.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to start off with a doozy. Compare the position unit groups from last year to this year. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, O-line and D-line, edge, linebacker, safety, cornerback. All right. What do we think, Ian? Let's start off. And hey, we're just going to go through this fairly quick because we can't do a giant exposition on each position. Dude, that rhymed. I'm that good. All right. Quarterback.
They're better. Quarterbacks get better as they get older. It's not always obvious if the surrounding context degrades, but you show me a quarterback who's in a slump and 99 times out of 100, he's just injured or a supporting cast isn't there in the same way, or they're asking him to do something harder than they were when he was more successful. Quarterbacks
I agree 114%. I think Arch is going to be very improved. And you also saw his rate of improvement at the end of the year when we got him, when we went from bad O-line play to below average to average O-line play. Suddenly Arch Manning's dominating everybody, right? I think we're going to see a nice tip up. Let me ask you about the backups. Should he have to miss a game or two? Are you confident in that group, or are we a little scared with the departure of Mr. Matthew Caldwell?
I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, me too.
I think KJ Lacey is the kind of guy that comes in and the other team, like that first game back, you might be in a little bit of trouble before you figure out, because he's quick and he's going to do some stuff that you didn't quite prepare for or aren't thinking about. He's going to change some of the geometry of the game with his scrambling. And so I feel fine about it, honestly.
Good deal. All right, let's go to running back. I'll keep this short and simple. I think it's vastly improved. I think not only in the headline level of talent, but also in the quality of talent, as you have to put in, the number 2 guy. What do you think?
Yeah. They should be better in every factor, except maybe pass protection is maybe a question mark.
That is the only one that's a question mark for me.
Which is not insignificant, I suppose. But yeah.
Maybe some ways around that, but we'll see. Also, by the way, there was a perception that CJ Baxter was a really good pass pro guy. No, he wasn't. Wide receiver.
Well, he was big, right? So that's what makes good pass protection.
Well, that's right. Wide receiver, well, we added some high-quality guys. We get some other guys back that we wanted to return. We lose some guys that, frankly, I don't think would have had much of a role on this year's team, or a diminished role, I should say. I think we're vastly improved at wide receiver. Some of that, of course, because of adding Cam Coleman, who is a game changer. If you guys have not watched the deep dive that Ian and I did on Cam Coleman, you need to go watch it, search it up. It is worth your time. We really need Ryan Wingo to get better, though, don't we?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much we need that since they added Coleman, but he could get a lot better, and that would take this team into the stratosphere, right?
Yeah, we'd have our horizontal threat and we'd have our vertical threat. And then we'd have our wily veteran glue guy, Mosley, running into seams and turning around and getting 15-yard chain movers.
Yep.
All right, tight end.
That for another episode.
Oh, we got to get through these. Tight end. I think we're improved. What do you think?
Definitely improved in blocking. Maybe improved in the play action gadget tight end passing game that Sark is good at developing. Maybe downgraded in pure tight end running a route and getting open.
I loved Endries. I wish we could have gotten him to return.
Yeah.
But the math probably made sense for Endries to go be a 4th rounder, right? Or whatever he's going to be. I liked Endries a lot. And unfortunately, we underutilized him. I would have loved to have returned him. But as a total unit, I mean, the 3 guys that are going to likely see a lot of time, or 4 guys, I think we've improved in total. Do you agree?
Yeah. It's almost the same group, too. So it's.
But everyone's better. And then we added a big 6'6", 260-pound Big Ten tight end, right?
Check mark.
O-line. We should be improved. However, the depth of improvement may hinge upon the eligibility of our Western Kentucky transfer guard. What do you think?
It shouldn't, honestly, but it probably will.
Yeah, it shouldn't, but it will. Yeah.
Did Chapman get injured last year too, or did he not? He just never found the field.
Never found the field. Don't know why.
Getting Kojo back could actually be a big deal. If they had Kojo last year, you can imagine that they probably would have slid him into left guard early in the year when nothing was working, and maybe arrived at some level of competence earlier in the season.
We'll tell you what, if Kojo rallies and is able to fully recover, which we obviously hope and pray for, we could be starting a center and 4 offensive tackles.
That's probably what they should do.
Well, that's kind of what we want to do, in Flood's rubric. All right, D-line. We're going to improve or decline?
That seems like an easy improve. They lose.
We're separating D-line from edge, by the way.
Oh, it looks like we are. Okay. Does Sorrell then? Sorrell. Does Ethan Burke? Are we counting Ethan Burke as an edge or a D-line for this?
Well, he was an edge because he played in a 4-man front, Ian.
Well, we might be
X's and O's expert, Ian.
We may be eliminating his position anyway from the team.
That's right.
So I think this is an upgrade, but it's probably pretty marginal because Brevard was good. They lose him. They may take a step down at that position. Everybody else is probably better.
Are you underrating your transfer namesake from Arkansas? Ian Graffard?
I don't think so. I don't think I'm underrating.
We're returning Hero Canoe, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Let's go to edge.
This is maybe a big upgrade.
Me gusta.
Colin Simmons could be an absolute just terrorist in year 3, playing for an NFL contract. Lance Jackson will be better and play more.
He's going to be great.
I don't know that you really need to even say anything else. That's already
Zena, dude. If Zena's your number 3 edge,
yeah, right.
You're living well, and we've got some really talented young guys coming in, and we've got guys like Vasic who are not exactly mincemeat. So, love this room. I think it's going to be an exciting group. Linebacker, interesting. All right. So, do you prefer veteran experience?
Yes.
Of Lafau and that? I mean, hey, here's the deal with Lafau though. He was great against Ohio State. He was great against A&M. And thoroughly mediocre in every game in between. So are we really missing that much? And Biles is a pretty electric player. Ty Anthony Smith, I think, is going to be a guy that's going to get a lot done. But Anthony Hill, say what you want about his pure linebacking. That dude hurt people when he hit them.
I was about to say, there's another guy that they're missing that might be consequential in Anthony Hill.
Yeah.
I'm not ecstatic about this group. I'm not terrified. I do think it's a downgrade unless Biles and Smith are both lights out and both very healthy, in which case maybe fine. Maybe great.
I think they're a very different group of linebackers than what we had. But our depth is pretty thin, man. It's not good.
Oh, yeah, it's very worrisome.
Safety. So here we need both that safety and cornerback. We need to make a delineation here between potential, talent, and how the scheme played these guys last year.
Mhm.
If you guys follow the deep dive, you know Ian and I were not tremendous fans about our coaching in the secondary last year. I think that's going to be considerably upgraded. So let's start with safety. What do you think? I mean, we're losing Taff. That's no joke. We bring back Jelani McDonald, which is a huge plus. Are we going to be able to fill that other safety position satisfactorily?
I think so. Do you?
Don't know. I think that is going to be actually a position that's really up. I think that's going to be a big fight this spring and in the fall. I think that other position next to Jelani, I think there's going to be 3 or 4 candidates fighting for it. And I think they're going to have to make a pick, and I don't think it'll be like a clear pick. Also, we don't really know what Xavier Filsame is because he hasn't been coached properly.
My suspicion is that if it's a real fight for that second safety spot, that means that things are going really well. Because I think Derek Williams could be an absolute dynamo there.
Yep.
And he's now 2 years removed, and he's bought in. He loves Gideon. Muschamp is particularly good at developing these guys. So my guess is that if this is not if this is a fight, that's probably a good sign that they have a lot of guys that are playing pretty good. I don't agree.
Chat says Taff was great, but we could be upgrading via athleticism. We could be upgrading in like 100 meters time, right? Or maybe height and weight. Taff was a lot quicker and played a lot faster than I think people give him credit for.
Yeah.
I agree. Taff's not going to go to the combine and drop a 4.3.
There's not going to be a lot of play. I would defy anyone to find a play from last year or the year before where it's like Taff was slow and that's what got us here.
Yeah, it was more Taff was small.
Yeah.
Like he got ran over by a big physical guy, like just physics, not like a lack of effort from him, right? Do you remember that Arkansas running back, Washington? Trucked him. Cam Scatabo kind of ran him over on that prayer fly route. He's 185 pounds. So there's some inherent limitations there. Cornerback. Ian, the depth in this room is sick. The question is, are our top 2 starters better than last year? And then let's factor in the totality of the room. I think we're going to have guys that are running second team for us who would start for at least half the teams in the SEC.
Yeah. I think they will be okay. I think they will be better at the 2 positions averaged. I think it's like last year it was like a 9 and like a 5 maybe. A 9 and a 6. I think this year it will be 8 and 8 or something like that. There's a chance that any of Masco, Phillips, or Littleton could be a 9 or a 10 also. Because those guys tend to hit a little faster.
Yeah.
The real dudes outside.
Well, I just think it's crazy the depth we have and the types of bodies we can throw. Because I'm a big believer in styles make fights outside. And a guy like Bo Masco, who's very slightly built, but he's long and he's just sticky and he's got crazy change of direction. So all your little receiver moves off the line, he just eats it up. He might struggle with a 6'4", 220-pound guy. So we roll Kobe Black out there, press him, and that guy doesn't get off the line of scrimmage. Like, yep. I think we've got a lot of options, and that's an exciting thing for me at cornerback. Manny Muhammad, I think, will be missed. He was a pretty veteran guy who did a lot of good things out there on the field that didn't always get attention because his guy was locked down. Go watch the Aggie game. He did a hell of a job on Mario Craver. That's it. I mean, I think we're either going to be equal or improved mostly everywhere. Linebacker, debatable, I suppose. Anywhere else you think we could be worse?
Oh, offensive line. I think offensive line is positioned to be better than last year. it's not as well positioned as we wanted. And there an injury and or somebody not panning out in that group is on the edge of a knife again.
I mean, I tell you what, Ian, I mean, it's possible that it would be, we're looking for a new offensive line coach.
At least.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, let's move on. I know Georgia always handles us in this department, but what team should we look out for to be a problem for us given their scheme or personnel? That's an excellent question. So I'll tell you what, Ian, let's talk about the challenges posed to our defense first. So I know this question is sort of talking about the opponent's defense giving us problems schematically. Just as Sark seems to have the solve for the OUD schematically, we seem to not have the solve for the Georgia D. But let's flip the field. Let's talk about our D, because if you guys have looked at our schedule, we are facing a brutal slate of offenses. And they are hugely varied, and every week represents a different challenge. It starts off with the Ohio State Buckeyes. And yeah, I understand they would kind of tighten up and sit on the ball against big opponents last year. That was a function, I think, partly of Ryan Day getting a little conservative, but also Julian Sayan's lack of experience. I don't think the training wheels are going to be on Julian Sayan when we play them in the second game of the season. Not long after that, Ian, we go up to Knoxville and we face a completely different kind of offense, right? True veer and shoot. That's not the only veer and shoot team we're going to play. Mississippi State, and they certainly gave us some problems last year. We've got OU, which is a different kind of offense. They're going to be improved. I know you guys don't want to hear that. They're going to be better on offense because they finally hit on some young offensive linemen, and they're not caught in transfer portal hell as much anymore. Florida's going to run the damn ball. They're going to run downhill. You better stop them. And we got small linebackers. Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss is back. He's going to run around and create. We've got Missouri. They're going to run outside zone. LSU, Lane Kiffin is going to scheme the hell out of us. I mean,
that's the one.
Dude, we've got a lot of varied offenses that attack you in completely different ways. I'm glad we have Muschamp because he's more flexible in his thinking to address those different types. But even Georgia, if you study them closely, first 2 quarters in every game against Tennessee, they get their ass kicked. And then they get used to the tempo and they shut Tennessee down. But those games have a very familiar feeling if you've ever watched those Tennessee-Georgia games. All right, I went a long time on that. Are there any defenses that you see giving us a particular issue?
Well, I'll just say Lane Kiffin in particular really had some solves for Georgia the last couple of years.
Well, I mean, you and I think, have had this opinion. I don't know if we've expressed it publicly, but privately, we think Lane Kiffin might be the best overall sort of college offensive mind of being able to blend college-y stuff with pro type stuff, like getting the best of both worlds and then suiting it to his personnel.
I think if he had Sark's knack for hiring defensive coaches, then he would be a clear superior. All right. Defenses to worry about. I mean, Oklahoma always has to have your attention a little bit, at least, because you have all of their attention. And as well as Texas has played against them the last few years, it's not like they've controlled the game. They haven't blown them away.
Well, here's the thing about Venables. Have you ever seen that Twitter meme or the video of the beaver who was raised as a pup in this family's house? He's never been in the wild, but every day he constructs a dam in their hallway out of like bits of paper and trash cans and stuffies and toys. Venables is that beaver. It doesn't matter the environment. He gets twitchy and nervous and he wants to affect the game and he starts running stunts. And I think Sark is just waiting for that. If Venables came out and played base defense, I'm telling you, like 3 high, I think we lose the game because we'd be so shocked. I think it would take us 2.5, 3 quarters to adjust.
True. I hope that they are able to instill outside zone effectively with this rebuilt offensive line that won't be able to practice together until summer. That's been the Oklahoma kryptonite, right?
Are there any other defenses that you think schematically represent a problem for us?
Patricia did last year.
For sure.
I think Patricia knows how to target weaknesses and protection.
No doubt about that.
While keeping your deep routes covered up in zone, that's a big problem for Sark. Vanderbilt had that figured out, and then Sark solved for it by just throwing bubble screens to Ryan Wingo, and it just kind of undid them. You can't just throw bubble screens against Ohio State. They have too good athleticism in the secondary. Elko is similar to Venables.
Yeah.
If Elko gets Sark if Elko gets anyone in third down passing situations regularly, you're done. But getting there has been tricky. Oh, Knowles in Tennessee. That's an interesting one. I don't know if he has the pieces.
Well, I think the guy in the chat says capably Knowles would be scared if he had more time. I agree with that. Early adoption of Knowles defenses, not a good track record. Yep. He is, in fairness, bringing over a bunch of Penn State guys. So that might help their uptake. But generally, the Knowles system takes a little time.
I feel like we're forgetting somebody obvious. LSU's Guy Baker is kind of similar to Venables and Elko.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's quite as risk-taking on first down, but he has an approach that's like, if I can just get you to third down, I'll kill you.
Yeah.
I'll
say this.
Go ahead.
Our defense is going to be more challenged by our opponents this year than our offense.
Sounds like that's right.
If you just line up the quality, that's my preseason opinion. As I do deeper research into every opponent, I might change, but looking at it first blush, I think our offense has an easier go of it than our defense is going to have. Our defense is going to be facing some legit offenses, guys.
Yep.
All right. Next question.
But first,
I have a question for you, Ian.
Shoot.
If you are in the market for any good or service, and you have the opportunity to bring it to one monopoly or 50 people vying and competing for your business, which would you prefer?
I'm going to go with option B.
That's because you're a free market patriot. And that's exactly what Gabe Winslow is. You got to reach him at 832-557-1095. Why did I set up that? Well, here's why. Gabe's a mortgage broker. He's not tied to Big Bank USA. Those guys work real hard. There's a reason they use the word banker's hours, and it's not describing hard work, guys. Gabe works his butt off. If you text him at midnight, you'll probably get a return text about 3 minutes later. This is the guy. This is the man. You've got to go with him if you're going to either refi or get out a loan. Right now, lowest interest rates in 3 years. This is the dude you want out there shopping. And when interest rates are going down, all those lenders start to get really competitive with each other. You've got to call Gabe. He is your man. This is the most important financial decision for 99% of you. Go with the best. Don't just Google some random name or go to your bank. The dude from Wells Fargo is not going to do the job for you. 832-557-1095. Tell him that you were sent by the contraire Ian. All right. How much of a difference? Ooh, we get to do the hypotheticals. This is something military history geeks love, Ian. What if the Mongols had faced the Roman legions? What would happen? How much of a difference would it have made if Cam Williams had come back last year instead of foolishly declaring for the draft?
Mongols would have been a big problem, right?
Yeah, Romans, awesome, juggernaut, but they really struggled with horse archers if you study their history.
I figure Caesar might have figured it out. Anybody else, big trouble. I think that it would have helped if they had had an NFL player on the offensive line last year.
Yes.
And I'm not sure the extent, because the upgrade from Baker to Williams would not have been that big.
Not
Go
so
ahead.
fast, my friend.
Right.
Here's what would have happened. By about game 3 or 4, when left guard had been revealed,
Yep.
Cam Williams is your starting left guard, folks.
Cam Williams or Baker, you think?
Cam Williams.
Interesting.
And he would be sad and angry and disgruntled. I returned to improve my draft stock at tackle. And we'd be like, dude, left guard's a sieve. We want to run the damn ball. We want to be able to have some pass pro. By the way, Cam Williams would have shored that up. So that would have really helped our team quite a bit. As for his declaration for the draft, my understanding is he had some physical deficiencies that maybe he needed to just go pro and like start the clock, because what he was limping. Remember in that last Ohio State playoff game? Obviously, you remember the famous play. He couldn't even get in a stance. And it was something that's a little deeper than like an acute injury. So I'll leave it at that.
Is he playing for the Eagles yet?
Don't know.
I'll tell you what, by going to the Eagles, that was maybe better than getting a higher draft pick if he can make the next contract. Because the Eagles are they're like one of like 5 teams in the NFL that have an amazing offensive line coach.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely agree.
Kind of like kind of worked out well for Ewers to go to Miami, except for the part where McDaniels got himself fired.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that pans out. I'm fingers crossed for Quinn. What is the degree of difficulty for our D-line and linebackers to become adept at coordination with Muschamp schemes? At what point will we have a good read on the level of success at this? That's from Go for Broke. Go for Broke, that's a good question. We will have a read on this very quickly because we face the Ohio State Buckeyes in Austin, Texas in early September. And then we go to Tennessee and Knoxville by the end of September. So you're going to get every facet of our defense tested. I don't think our D-line is going to have much of any adjustment at all. I think they're going to be just fine. I think the linebackers, that might be the more interesting question. And how they adapt might actually determine whether we spend a lot of time in our 3-man front playing 4 eyes and covering them up so they're not getting blockers on them, or we feel more comfortable experimenting with 4-man fronts to really unleash Colin Simmons. Biles and Smith are a little undersized, and they're not classic linebackers. I think they will be the ones with the biggest learning curve. What do you think? I really think the secondary has the biggest learning curve, not to deflect the question.
Muschamp was able to install so quickly and effectively in a lot of previous schools. So I think like there's surely a learning curve to mastering his schemes, but I think he emphasizes man and man match so much that he ends up with it's almost like Sark's offense, where there's like this playbook is 1 million pages long, but it's mostly one read throws. I think Muschamp has a similar deal where he has a big, expansive playbook, but a lot of it boils down to man.
Certainly man outside.
Yeah. And so year 1 at Texas, they took to it really well and really fast. He went back to Auburn after year 1 at Florida, took to it well. Went to Auburn for a year, immediate dividends. Kevin Steele inherited a perfect situation to run the same scheme. And then Georgia's hard to read as much. But I think this is going to go well. I think we're going to see it in the spring game even. We won't know until Ohio State, but I think the spring game is going to show us a lot about how quickly they're mastering this.
Well, and the good news for Muschamp is one of the things that I loved about Pete Kwiatkowski. He was very good at just the basic blocking and tackling, the meat and potatoes of football, like teaching guys their position, teaching guys to tackle, teaching guys, this is your role. This is your job. you can easily overlook that for schematic wizardry, but there's a lot of value in that. Now, on the back end, there's a reason we made the change. He was a non-contributor there, and he needed a guy to do that for him. Muschamp, I think, can hold steady on the fundamentals and the meat and potatoes, but then I think he can really enrich the back end. Is that too simplistic, or do you think that's about right?
That's about right. Although I think even in the back end, he does a pretty good job of teaching it. If you guys watch Pac's videos, it seems like a lot, but a lot of it boils down to man coverage and then using either the sideline or a safety to double the receiver.
Yep.
Once you get it, it kind of comes together.
100%. This is an interesting question from Laser2222. He is probably a physicist working with lasers, and he lives on 2222 in Austin. That's my surmise.
I know him, and I know that that's exactly the case.
Is that really true?
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay. What can we learn about Gideon from his time at Georgia Tech that is likely to show up on the field on Saturdays this fall? That's an interesting question. You guys may know Georgia Tech did not have a particularly good defense. They actually had a hell of a defensive effort against Georgia, but they also got lit up a few times as well. I think that was largely a personnel issue. They didn't have a bunch of talent. They had some pretty big holes, and I watched Georgia Tech a few times. Ian, do you have any thoughts on this before I take a crack at it?
No, because I didn't watch much Tech. I do know what he believed in and emphasized at Texas, and he helped TK move towards, hey, at least show them too high before you get into single high.
Yeah.
And let's have disguise, and let's he also had this great quote in a clinic I saw where he's like, I don't really believe in stretching. You never seen a dog do a stretch before he goes and chases the mailman. Which I thought was hilarious and probably true. I think stretching is for us old people. Young people don't need to waste practice time stretching.
Yeah, as I've aged, I think I might have to agree with that. Here's my thought, and this is kind of 10,000 foot big picture. One, we know about Gideon. He likes to disguise. He's certainly going to coach up the safety position. That guy knows like how to play safety.
Yeah.
I would say that you learn a lot about yourself as a coach when you have inferior personnel. So I've coached youth football 4 years now at different ages, and I've had fairly talented teams and I've had not so talented teams. And I grew the most as a coach coaching the not so talented teams. And I think Gideon learned some stuff not having the best athletes on the field and how you compensate for that. And what are some of the tricks that I can use to make the defense still reasonable, even though we're outmatched at 7 out of 11 matchups on the field, right? At Texas, he wasn't outmatched a lot, talent-wise, when we rolled out our D. So I think you grow and learn a lot as a coach when you've got an inferior unit, frankly. And I think he probably profited from that. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, he might have learned a little bit about that as a player too. He wasn't really an inferior player like people thought, but he certainly had to learn the game at a higher level than some of his teammates. I don't want to say Earl Thomas because Earl Thomas had a pretty good understanding of the game as well. But yeah, I agree. I'm optimistic about his time at Texas to come.
Well, and if you were worried about him marrying to Muschamp, remember Muschamp coached him, and Muschamp, I think, had a special affection for Gideon. One, because he was starting him as a true freshman, which is pretty ballsy at safety. And two, because I think Muschamp saw a lot of Blake Gideon in himself, right, as a player. And I think they had a pretty funny ritual. I don't know if you recall this, Ian, but before every game, Gideon would right before the whistle, he'd go up to Muschamp and go, "So, are you scared?" Muschamp would just be like, "Get away from me, idiot. Like, go get out of here." And I don't know, it just became like a ritual with them. I always thought that was really funny. But they have a great relationship. They see football very similarly. There is going to be a seamless coordination between the two. That is a massive contrast between Akina and Pete Kwiatkowski last year.
Yeah, This
You want to
question.
crack at this question from our friend Utah Horn?
So when you wrote your piece recently about the difficulty of the Texas schedule and the relative difficulties of different schedules, and I think Ohio State too, right? You noted
Ohio State arguably has the most difficult schedule in school history this year.
They've been storing up wrath for themselves with easy schedules for the last 5 years. And the dam apparently finally broke on them with the way it played out this year. But reading that, I believe I commented on this. I don't think anybody replied because people didn't see the brilliance of my deduction. I think Texas versus Ohio State might be a de facto play-in game because I don't know if either team can afford an L there.
Yeah, here's the crazy thing. So I wrote an article about national championship odds. The takeaway from the article is that no one's a favorite. If you're at plus 700, even if you're the most likely team, that's not a favorite by any real sense. Like, if you think so, you're enumerate. However, you will see a bunch of articles of like preseason national championship 2026 Texas is a favorite in the betting markets. Technically true, not true. If you're plus 150 in the preseason for the national title, as Georgia and Alabama have been in some seasons, that's a favorite. Okay. So Texas is tied with Ohio State, Notre Dame, and I think Oregon was one of them that was up there high. And if you look at the schedules, one of the ways to win a national title, Ian, crazy statement, is to make the playoff.
To play in the national title.
If you play in the playoffs, you get the opportunity to play for the national title. If you have a couple of things go wrong and you catch a bad break or two against a really difficult schedule, you could go 9-3. And you might have a bunch of excellent wins, and you might have the second hardest schedule difficulty in the country. And you know what? That committee goes, 2 losses is better than 3 losses. I take the 2-loss team that didn't play another ranked team because 2 is less than 3.
And then they ripped Texas for dropping the Arizona State game.
That's right. That's right. So I think there's a non-zero chance Texas doesn't make the playoff. Whereas Notre Dame seems almost assured to make the playoff. And if you're going to quibble with me in the chat, please Google up their schedule before your response, and then you'll go, oh. So how much momentum would win against Ohio State in week 2 help with the rest of the season? It would be immeasurable, right? It would be massive. And I think it would give the team a lot of confidence. There's a lot of soft factors like that. But as a hard factor, that's a powerful win. And it's something.
Good. No, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You saw what happened last year when Texas didn't get that win, which me and you were both like, I think they're going to get this one. They get to play freshman week 1.
Yeah.
And when they didn't get it, that was the margin of error. Basically, it was gone. So, yeah. This one is for
harder to defend.
I have a take on this, but this is probably for you.
Harder to defend modern veer and shoot or the Parthian shot. That is where we get the phrase parting shot from, which was the Parthians who were basically on the edge of the Roman Empire, modern day Iran, starting up in what
are they? Are they the ancestors of the modern Persian?
Some of them are.
Some of them are.
The Persian Empire was massive. Right. But the Parthians were horse archers, and they were so good at horse archery, as they would retreat, they'd turn in their saddles and shoot a parting shot, a Parthian shot. So the Romans fought the Parthians all the time. They were right on the frontier, and they had mixed results. Sometimes they smoked them, but other times, if they could get them out on the plains, and go Google Crassus, a very famous Roman who was part of the tripartite rule with Caesar. He decided to mount an expedition for glory against the Parthians, and he got a bunch of legionnaires slaughtered. So harder to defend. I'm going to say the Parthian shot.
Wasn't he the inspiration for getting gold dumped on your head?
That is the legend. Is he was the richest man in Rome, and Crassus organized this army for glory, and it was going to be his way to elevate himself in Roman politics. And the legend is that the Parthians captured him on the battlefield And to humiliate him, they poured liquid gold over his head because they're like, we understand that you want our gold and treasure out here. So here's a little gold for you, which I think inspired the Game of Thrones incident. So
Yes.
Good stuff.
I would say that the Viren shoot is the spiritual and descendant of the Parthian shot.
Yeah. Asymmetrical warfare.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can fight capably as a horse archer, you got a big advantage. But
probably more so the Comanche, but the Comanche didn't learn from the Parthians, but it's the same idea.
Yeah, it always instructive though. Whenever given the opportunity, Native Americans always opted for firearms over bows and arrows. Partly because they didn't have the technology of compound bows or recurve bows. So that's why you can read Texas history and Comanche fights where you're like, this seems unrealistic, and a guy gets like hit with 9 arrows and limps his way back to the fort and survives. You don't get hit with 9 Colt 45 shots and limp your way back to the fort and survive. So
9 recurve bow shots, to your point.
That's right. No, Mongol recurve bow would go through you. All right. Sugar Pappy says this is exactly why this is my favorite show on the tube. Sugar Pappy, this is why so many of you love this show, and this is also why some of you have turned the show off. So it's a mixed blessing.
You want to do
another question from Bobby Batronic. This guy's dominating the chat. He's mogging the chat, Ian. He's got aura. I'm just trying to incorporate young person talk that I don't understand to try to keep the young demographic. Better safety, Gideon or Taff? I say Michael Taff. What do you say? I
think so too. I think he was a little smaller. If he had Gideon's size and still kept the same quickness, he would be early round draft pick.
He'd be going in the first or second round.
Gideon was bigger and stronger, but he did not have Taft's twitch. And as far as I think Taft was actually even his superior as a field general, field coach as well.
Yeah, maybe so. I think quickness, dexterity, agility, nimbleness, always underrated on the football field. And then sort of 40 time can be overrated. 40 times kind of pass fail. If you're under a certain mark, you're fine. If you run a 4.8, it's going to be hard for you, man. You just don't have the horsepower. But agility, quickness, that always matters a lot on the football field, especially at safety.
Yep.
Bobby says Muschamp is better than Crassus. All right, that's fine.
Less likely to get caught in Persia.
Less likely to get caught on an open plain with no supplies, logistics, and encircled by a mounted army. You don't need to get encircled unless it's by excellent knowledge of the Inside Texas staff and our amazing subscribers, of which Bobby Batronic is one. You could join now for $1 American, new members only. Hey, if you guys consume our YouTube show and you're not also Inside Texas members, you're insane. You're crazier than Crassus, Ian. Also, when I brought up the hypothetical Mongol versus Roman battle, I take it as a little bit of a jab that you said Caesar might have sorted them out instead of Scipio Africanus.
Yeah, okay.
It's a direct attack on me. Not a lot of people understood it, but I understood it, and you're going to have to pay for it at a future date.
Hey, real quick, Crassus or Cody Campbell? Because I think that's...
You know what? As a businessman, Cody Campbell's pretty damn sharp. So don't let your hatred of him cloud the fact that the guy is a pretty shrewd operator. All right, Ian, you don't need to be Crassus. All you need is $1 to join Inside Texas. And hey, we need you guys to like, subscribe, and comment on this YouTube channel. We love our audience. If you love us back, let us know and help us out in the algorithm. That's all we got. Ian, any final parting shots?
Visit my Substack, America's War Game, to get my McCarthy thoughts.
I would encourage you to do that because Ian is excellent at what he does, but he attacked me on the live stream. So I hope you don't go to his Substack, America's War Game. How do you like that?
That's just fine.
All right. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Ian Boyd, Paul Wadlington, Sugar Pappy, Bobby Batronic. The whole crew is here. Thanks, y'all, and we'll see you. Welcome.